A very good afternoon and thank you for joining us on Beetv News Updates at 3. I am Ruth Ogbodu and now the news in detail. President Bola Tinubu has approved targeted incentives aimed at unlocking new investments, creating jobs, and boosting foreign exchange inflows from Nigeria's deep offshore oil sector. The approval covers Shell's proposed Bonga Southwest projects, along with other deep offshore developments, as part of the government's effort to revitalize oil and gas production and attract foreign capital into the sector. President Bola Tinubu has approved the gazetting of carefully targeted investment-linked incentives to support the proposed Bonga Southwest deep offshore oil project by Shell and its partners. The president also directed his special advisor on energy, Mrs. Olu Vehinje, to ensure that the incentives are formally gazetted in line with Nigeria's existing legal and physical frameworks.
I can proudly say that confidence is returning to our investment environment. Hearing from you now, I could guarantee you that when I assumed the responsibility of this office, the pledge I made to people of the country and my background is to ensure transparency and to be competitive in every way possible. I like what Shell has done and your partnership with Beetv and all of that. There's no better time to do it than now.
Your leadership, your vision has created an investment climate over the last few years that, I will be very honest with you, has propelled us to invest, in particular also as we compare to other investments around the world. Stability in today's environment will honestly have a premium for corporates, because we are investing not for one administration or 5 or 10 years. We want to invest for 20, 30, 40 years. And in the case of Nigeria, for many, many decades.
The competition for investment is global. And most other countries, like other African countries, Guyana, the Far East, they're changing their policies very dynamic so that they can attract those investments. So one of the great things that Mr. President did was to actually announce those executive orders to put additional incentives to be able to attract.
The Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, has issued a stern warning to political parties and candidates ahead of the 2026 governorship election. The Commission said it will sanction any individual or party that violates campaign rules, particularly acts involving hate speech, incitement, or the spread of misinformation. The warning was issued by the Ekiti State Resident Electoral Commissioner, Bumi Omosheindemi, during a stakeholders meeting in Edo, Ekiti, where she presented the final list of cleared candidates and officially declared the campaign period open. She emphasized that while political parties and candidates are free to canvass for votes, such freedom must be exercised responsibly and strictly within the provisions of the law. The state chairman of the Inter-Party Advisory Council said political parties are ready to cooperate with INEC and urged all candidates to comply fully with the provisions of the Electoral Act.
So, number one, notify security agency and relevant authorities ahead of all rallies, procession, and campaign activities. Avoid hate speech, inciting statements, misinformation, and personal attacks.
The Delta State Police Command has recorded a major breakthrough in its anti-kidnapping and anti-courtism operations, arresting 10 suspected kidnappers and armed robbers and recovering arms and ammunition. operatives of the Special Anti-Kidnapping and Cybercrime Squad have carried out a coordinated operation targeting reported cases of kidnapping and armed robbery across several communities in Delta State. The intelligence-led operation conducted along the Jedo-Ugotun-Warri axis led to the arrest of the principal suspects, OK Jerry, and second. The suspects are currently in the police custody undergoing further investigation. While efforts continue to track and apprehend other fleeing members of the criminal syndicates, the Delta State Commissioner of Police, Aina Adesola, commended the operatives for their professionalism and effective use of actionable intelligence. He reaffirmed the command's unwavering commitment to ridding Delta State of criminal elements through sustained, proactive, and intelligence-led policing. The Deputy President of the Senate, Barrow Jibrin, led a high-power federal government delegation on a condolence visit to Katsina State, following the passing of two prominent sons of the state, Islamic scholar Shikai Haibu Kwara and former Assistant Controller General of Customs, Lawa Bagiwa. The delegation met with family members and communities leaders to express the government's sympathies and offer support during the period of mourning. The two prominent personalities who passed away yesterday have been buried in accordance with Islamic rites. The governor of Katsina State received the delegation led by the chairman of the Progressive Governors Forum, Senator Barrow, who conveyed the federal government's condolences to the immediate families of the deceased. Senator Barrow described Shikai Aibu Kwara as a truthful and upright cleric whose life was devoted to serving Allah and humanity. The delegation also visited the family of the late retired custom official Alhaji Lawa Bagiwa, whom Senator Barrow praised as an accomplished public servant who served the nation diligently in the Nigeria Customs Service. Nigeria and the United States have inaugurated a joint working group aimed at strengthening cooperation on security, counter-terrorism, and the protection of civilians, including religious communities. The joint working group was formally launched in Abuja following a high-level engagement between Nigeria's National Security Advisor and senior officials of the United States government, marking the third such meeting since November last year. Nigeria's National Security Advisor described the initiative as a reflection of a mature strategic partnership focused on practical outcomes rather than dialogue alone. He noted that enhanced intelligence sharing and closer coordination between U.S. Africa Command and Nigeria's defense headquarters have strengthened counter-terrorism across operations, resulting in the disruption of terrorist networks and logistics hubs. The United States Under Secretary of State for Political Affairs, Alison Hook, said the working group aims to deter violence against vulnerable communities, investigate attacks, and ensure accountability.
Particularly in the Northeast, under Operation Hadinkai, as well as in the Northwest, and Central under Operation Fasang Yamma. These engagements have moved decisively beyond dialogue to action. They have supported improved target identification and operational fidelity, strengthened joint planning, and enabled more effective disruption of terrorist networks and transnational criminal elements.
We call for the government to work with local authorities to find and secure the release of the innocent victims, and to work with NGOs to meet the victims' families' needs in the meantime. Advancing religious freedom and security will help the United States and Nigeria to enhance the reciprocal benefits of our relationship. solidifying trade and economic deals, degrading terrorist groups that threaten our interests, and strengthening health responses.
The Lagos State Police Command has smashed a syndicate that specializes in the notorious one chance and 419 operations, in which suspects pose as commercial drivers, passengers, or traders to lure unsuspecting commuters into their vehicle and defraud, abduct, or extort them under the guise of public transportation and public transactions. The command also uncovered a beauty at number 185 Pipeline Road by OPC Junction in the Edimu area of Lagos, while members of the syndicate kept their victims hostage until their families paid for their release. Arrested were 13 suspects, among an ex-convict who was released from prison last month after serving a 4-month jail term, and a woman who disguised as a prophetess to extort victims. Recovered were the gang's 2 operational vehicles, a Yaki bus used for commercial purposes with registration number MAP 523ZYL and a Toyota car with registration number EPE 209HY during a visit to the suspect base by the Commissioner of Police. Journalists observed 2 shrines in the building. While one had a chair, candles, and olive oil and lights, the other had several clothes suspected to belong to victims, as well as bloodstains.
These gangs have operational vehicles that they use to pick up suspecting members of the public in the early hours of the morning and in the wee hour of the night. They take them from different locations to where we are now and take them into that room that is called their shrine.
Dalitin Uwa Uju, spokesman for a faction of the All Progressive Congress (APC) in Rivers State, has reaffirmed his defense for Governor Siminalayi Fubara and his deputy amid ongoing impeachment proceedings. Mr. Dalitin Uwa Uju has urged the Chief Judge to resist pressure to establish an investigative panel, describing the process as fundamentally flawed. Citing a 2024 State High Court judgment, he condemned remarks attributed to the party's national spokesperson, Mr. Felix, which question his legitimacy and his right to speak on APC-related matters.
And let it be known to all, including the National Working Committee of our great party, that actions taken by persons who were purportedly elected into the leadership of the APC in Rivers State through kangaroo congresses conducted under Alhaji Umaru Ganduje in November of 2023 are a direct affront on the courts, as the activities are built on a faulty foundation.
We are going on a short break. Do stay with us.
I am Amadi Desmond Enabulele, the Executive Chairman of Edo State Sports Commission. For February 20th to 27th, this 2026, Edo State shall be hosting the 2nd edition of the Niger Delta Games. It is the biggest regional sports competition in Africa, the largest convergence of pure talents in Nigeria, and the cradle of future champions. We invite you to come share the moment with us as we celebrate the brotherhood of Niger Delta in the historical city of.
Attention, employers and taxable persons in Edo State. Pursuant to the Nigerian Tax Administration Act 2025, the Edo State Internal Revenue Service (EIRS) issues a formal demand for your annual tax returns. Employers of labor, your deadline to file H1 and payee schedules is January 31st, 2026. Individual taxpayers, you must file your Self-Assessment Form A by March 31st, 2026. Log on to payee.eirs.gov.ng to download the Excel template and upload your forms H1 and H3. For Form A, send your completed filings to efilings@eirs.gov.ng. Failure to file is an offense. Employers risk 1 million naira penalty or up to 3 years imprisonment. Individuals face an initial 100,000 naira fine and 50,000 naira for every month of delay. Ensure employees' names match their tax IDs. For inquiry, visit any EIRS office or call 0813 097 0146. Play your part. Pay your tax. It's the law. EIRS, administering revenue for service and development.
Welcome back, and now to the business news. The Nigerian Navy has intensified efforts to expand its indigenous shipbuilding program as part of a broader strategy to strengthen operational capacity and reduce reliance on foreign-built warships. This was highlighted at the 9th Doha International Maritime Defense Exhibition and Conference held in Qatar from January 19 to 22. The report.
The event, which is the largest maritime defense and security exhibition in the Middle East, brought together global defense manufacturers, naval leaders, and maritime security experts. It was attended by the Chief of the Naval Staff, Vice Admiral Idi Abbas, under the patronage of Qatar Emir Sheikh Tamim. According to a statement by the Navy's spokesman, Commodore Iwuyo Adams Aliyu, the naval chief emerged with maritime solution providers on emerging technologies. This discussion focused on acquiring modern naval platforms and strengthening technology transfer agreements to scale up local ship production and position Nigeria as a leading warship manufacturer in Africa. Nigeria's monetary tightening has significantly reduced inflation, with the Central Bank of Nigeria estimating that its policy stance accounted for up to 10% points of the decline in headline inflation, according to CBN Governor Olayemi Cardoso. Headline inflation fell to 16.05% in October 2025 from 18.02% in September and is 8.43 percentage point lower than the 24.48% recorded in January 2025, providing evidence of the effectiveness of the policy. Cardoso said the disinflation has been broad-based, driven by reduced exchange rate volatility, lower food prices, improved inflation expectation, a strong naira, and rising foreign reserves. President Bola Tinubu has approved the commencement of commercial oil drilling at Konjiji Island in Ikpokia local government area of Ogun State. The approval was disclosed by Ogun State Governor Dapo Abiodun during a courtesy visit by the flag officer commanding Western Naval Command, Rear Admiral Abubakar Abdullahi Mustafa. The governor also announced that President Tinubu approved the immediate takeoff of the long-awaited Olukola Deep Seaport project in Ogun Waterside local government area. He described the development as a major breakthrough after years of delays surrounding the multi-billion-dollar project. Abiodun noted that both projects are of special interest to the president, emphasizing their economic importance. He said the Olukola Deep Seaport would ease congestion at Lagos port, while oil drilling at Kongeji Island would boost economic inclusion and empowerment in coastal communities. Favor Kolawole reporting for Beetv News.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has called on European leaders to urgently defend democratic values and move toward forming a united European armed force, warning that the continent risks political and strategic decline if it fails to challenge growing influence from the United States and Russia. The report.
Speaking amid heightened geopolitical uncertainty, Zelensky said Europe must act with great unity and independence to protect its security and democratic foundations. He argued that resilience and external power for defense and strategic direction has weakened the Europeans' global standing and left it vulnerable to pressure from competing interests. Zelensky's remark come as Europe faces a shifting international landscape, including renewed debate over the future role of the United States in European security. Political developments surrounding Donald Trump and his influence on transatlantic relations have raised concern among European leaders about the long-term reliability of U.S. security commitments, particularly through NATO. According to Zelensky, Europe must be prepared to take responsibilities for its own defense by strengthening military cooperation, increasing defense spending, and developing a unified armed force capable of responding quickly to external threats. He stressed that such a force would not replace existing alliances but would complete them by ensuring Europe can act decisively when its interests and values are at stake. The Ukraine president also warned against growing Russian influence, saying Russia continues to exploit division within Europe to undermine democratic institutions and weaken collective resolve. He urged European leaders to remain firm in their support for Ukraine, describing the war as not only a fight for Ukrainian sovereignty, but also a broader struggle for European security and democratic principles. Zelensky's appeal highlights increasing anxiety within Europe about strategic autonomy, defense readiness, and political unity at a time when global power dynamics are rapidly changing. As debate continues over military integration and foreign policy independence, his message underscored the pressure on Europe to redefine its role in a more contexted world order. Favor Kolawole reporting for Beetv News.
U.S. President Donald Trump has proposed the creation of a new international initiative known as the Board of Peace, inviting dozens of world leaders to participate in efforts aimed at resolving major global conflicts. The proposal, which operates outside existing multilateral institutions, has raised concerns among diplomats about its potential impact on the authority and relevance of the United Nations. The report.
The Board of Peace is being presented as an informal global platform where selected heads of states and influential political figures would engage directly in negotiations over war, regional instability, and prolonged international disputes. According to reports, the initiative would emphasize personal diplomacy, direct negotiations, and deal-making, reflecting President Donald Trump's long-standing skepticism towards large, bureaucratic international organizations. Unlike the United Nations, the proposed Board of Peace would not be grounded in international treaties or charters and would have no legal authority to enforce its decision. Participation will be based on invitation rather than universal membership, and any agreement reached would rely on political influence rather than binding international law. Diplomats have expressed concern that the initiative could undermine multilateral diplomacy by drawing attention and political capital away from the United Nations, which was established to provide an inclusive and legally recognized framework for maintaining international peace and security. There are fears that parallel peace efforts could weaken the UN's legitimacy, particularly if world leaders choose to pursue conflict resolution through Trump's initiative instead of established UN mechanism. Supporters of the Board of Peace argue that it could offer faster and more flexible solutions in situations where UN processes are seen as slow or constrained by political divisions within bodies such as the Security Council. Critics, however, warned that bypassing the UN risks creating fragmented diplomacy, selected engagements, and peace agreements that lack international consensus or long-term sustainability. At present, the Board of Peace remains a proposal rather than a formally established institution. Its influence will depend on the willingness of invited leaders to participate and whether its efforts complement or compete with the United Nations role in global peacekeeping and conflict resolution. The initiative highlights a broader debate about the future of global governance, raising questions about whether personalized, leader-driven diplomacy can coexist with or ultimately weaken the multilateral system anchored by the United Nations. Evelyn is deeply reporting for Beetv News.
U.S. stocks closed higher for a second consecutive session as investors welcome relief on the trade front after President Donald Trump rescinded his recent tariff threats against European allies. The move helped ease concern about escalation in transatlantic trade tensions and restore some confidence to global markets. The report.
Wall Street opened firmly in positive territory and maintained gains through the session buoyed by renewed risk appetite. Market participants viewed the reversal on tariffs as a signal that the administration may be willing to pursue negotiation rather than confrontation with key trading partners, reducing the likelihood of fresh disruption to global supply chains. In addition to trade optimism, sentiment was supported by upbeat U.S. economy data, which pointed to continued resilience in the world's largest economy. Recent figures showed steady consumer activities and signs of strength in key sectors, reinforcing expectations that economic growth remains on track despite lingering inflation and interest rate concerns. Technology and industrial stock led to gains, benefiting from reduced fears of higher import costs and retaliatory measures from Europe. Financial stocks also advanced as investors took comfort in the broader economic outlook, while defensive sectors lagged behind amid the renewed appetite for risk. Bond yields were mixed as traders weighed the positive data against expectations for future monetary policy, while the US dollar was little changed. Oil prices edged higher, reflecting improved sentiment about global demand. Overall, the combination of tariff relief and encouraging economic indicators helped extend the market's rebound, with investors now looking ahead to further data releases and policy signals for direction in the days ahead. Evelyn Izibili reporting for Beetv News.
And now to entertainment news. Social media critic Very Darkma has taken a swipe at Afrobeat star Wizkid following his recent comparison of himself with late music legend Fela Anikulapo Kuti, as he reveals how Wizkid allegedly sampled his first hit track, Ola, at Your Boy. The report.
In his reaction, Very Darkman argued that Wizkid lacked the level of originality associated with Fela and even Fela's son, Femi and Seun Kuti. He questioned Wizkid's artistic depth, particularly his stage performances, which he described as heavily dependent on backing tracks rather than live delivery. Very Darkman further alleged that Wizkid's music career was built largely on sampling existing songs, claiming that many of his early works were not entirely original. He referenced Wizkid's debut era, insisting that several of his songs were inspired by or lifted from earlier records. In another development, Yeni Kuti, a daughter of the late Afrobeat legend Fela Anikulapo Kuti, has weighed in on the ongoing feud between Wizkid and her brother Seun Kuti, urging calm and unity among Nigerians. The comparison did not sit well with Seun Kuti, who publicly slammed Wizkid over it, prompting a response from the singer and sparking a heated online exchange. Reacting to the situation, Yeni Kuti recalled her long-standing relationship with Wizkid and highlighted his humble beginnings in the music industry. According to her, the conflict should not overshadow the unity and lesson music is meant to bring, as she urged everyone involved to settle their differences peacefully. A 26-year-old lady has been left heartbroken after discovering details of her husband's real age. The lady, identified as Idara Basimi at X, that she got married in December 2025, keeping her husband's identity undisclosed. In a lengthy tweet, she shared that during their relationship, her husband told her he was 34. However, while going through his files and documents, she found his passport, which revealed his birth year was 1972. The ex-user shared that the discovery left her stunned, and after confronting her husband, he admitted he was aware of his current age. Favor Kolawole reporting for Beetv News.
And now to sports. Galatasaray striker Victor Osimhen has revealed he has tried to convince Super Eagles teammates Ademola Lookman and Rafael Onyedika to join him at the Turkish champions, describing the club as one of the best in the world. Both Lookman and Onyedika have been linked with transfer to Galatasaray, and Osimhen has opened up about his efforts to persuade them to make the move. However, Bulgaria reportedly not open to the sale. Victor Osimhen said he spoke to Lookman before Nigeria's World Cup qualifier and gave him details about life at the Istanbul club. And that's the end of our news updates. Thank you for joining, and join us later at 6 for our major news. I am Ruth Obodu. Goodbye for now.